Welcome to the Fullcaster Podcast, episode 34. Our guest today is Ryan Perry, obviously the name and the man behind Ryan Perry Motorsport. You'll probably see their team and him out at all the national events going on, whether it be SCUSA or otherwise. And we're going to get him on here and chat about that whole thing and kind of how he got in there and all that kinds of good stuff. But first, we, of course, will knock out some current events, Dirk. We're recording this on June 14th. 1 week after we recorded with Rocky Moran, so we kind of already talked about the most recent race we've been in. We did an arrive and drive deal here at Cal Speed this last weekend. This weekend is SCUSA Pro Kart Challenge, the doubleheader here at Cal Speed. I got to give a shout out to Brett Harrelson, who is going to be the money behind my entry. So thank you very much.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm getting a chance to go play this weekend because of Brett. So thanks to him.
To touch on that really quick.
Yeah.
Just on Brett, if you will, because that can be a whole episode.
You got to get him on at some point. Yeah.
No. But it's so funny. You know, a lot of people may not think the most fondest of him on the track, but you know what to expect from him. You know, and I think you can attest to that with you having raced against him a bunch. You know,
I think well, I mean, that's a nice little conversation. We can bring that up with Ryan as well. So when you've been running for a while, you're running with the same people. You can kind of get to know how they race, why they race. You know, the kind of thought processes. You know, we almost call it like a filter.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're going to be around Brett, you know, he's going to be hanging the ass end out a little bit. He's aggressive, but I'll give him a little bit of credit where he's gotten a lot better as far as like keeping things heading the right direction and a little bit less craziness, if you will, over the last couple of years or a year-ish or so. But regardless, it was super cool for him to offer me that. Just saying, you know, he likes racing with me. And whatnot.
No, that's such a huge compliment. You know, to be like he wants that person there that might beat him, but will be a good race.
Yeah,
it's pretty neat that he did
pretty
that.
Pretty cool deal. I mean, we weren't going to run the SCUSA stuff because just the way conflicts were with scheduling, and I couldn't run this weekend because I didn't have a package. And that's the other shout out I got to give to David Wang.
Oh yeah,
who bought our package from Challenge, the whole deal.
And now you're right back in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we don't need to change the stickers or nothing.
And you'll be able to race Casey again this weekend, so that'll be kind of neat.
I'm looking forward to it. So
taking those points.
the whole weekend should be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. You know, I'm not going for points, just going to try to go out there and hopefully beat my friends and have a good time doing it, and looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, by the time this thing comes out, we'll be towards the end of July, closing on the Cal Speed Shootout, so we'll be on the other end of the fence doing that deal, but we'll have already had another race down. We talked about how the last Tri-C race went, so that'll be round 6 when we get to the when we
just have
other side of that one. 6. Yeah, be curious to see how we get in the time machine and move forward this thing and see where we actually end up. Hopefully, you've had a little bit better run, and hopefully I did okay this weekend.
Right, yeah.
We can have better current events. We can start talking about stuff. But, hey, without further ado, and I think we can just kind of jump into, we were just talking about filters and stuff like that and a bunch of other racing crap. Let's go ahead and bring him on here, Ryan Perry. Ryan Perry, thanks for coming on board here, brother.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. I've listened to a few of your episodes, and I really like what you guys are doing with the podcast.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we were going back and forth with something else. I can't. Oh, it was about the shootout. Like, are you going to make it or whatever? And you kind of gave me a little bit of crap, like, oh yeah, I wish I was up there enough to get on the podcast. I'm like, what are you doing next week?
You might see my entries if I'm on here.
Yeah, a little leverage. But yeah, cool. It's awesome that you listen to the show and whatnot. It's pretty sweet. I know that obviously Ryan Perry Motorsport. Is that the 9 to 5, or you got a day job, or how's that work?
No, that's it. That's all I do. So started the race team in 2012.
Okay.
It took a little while to get going. Had like 2 to 3 drivers, and didn't even have a trailer really. Just kind of going out of my little white Toyota pickup truck and helping a few of the guys out, and it just grew from there.
What made you decide to start a team?
Well, basically, karting, I've been in it since I was 10 years old, and it's just kind of a passion of mine, right? So tried a few other things, but the only thing that I really seem to like and not get tired of is racing. So why not karting, you know?
Right, for sure. And like you said, you've been been in karting for a long time. We'll get to that in a second. You do predominantly, I mean, I see here at Cal Speed, you're a local down here, but you had told me before that your kind of bread and butter, what you do mostly is the national stuff. That seems to be a little bit ass backwards for a lot of people to make money. How is it that your business model works better doing national versus a local or regional deal?
You know, it's just a different group of people, you know. We try to, kind of the goal behind the business is to get guys going through the local stuff. We haven't been able to push that much on the local stuff in the last few years, but I think that'll change. But I don't know, just try to develop the drivers and just try to make them as good as possible. And to do that, you really have to travel around and race the different tracks, better competition, and not just race at one place all the time. So for us, it's just always been a little bit bigger on the national level stuff. So we've always pushed a little bit harder for that.
So when you're putting together your calendar for the year, what are the primary places you're going? I know the Pro Tour for SCUSA, but what else are you guys hitting? Yeah,
so we're doing all of the USPKS events. This year we did all of the Florida Winter Tour as well as SCUSA Winter Series. And we actually were able to make all of the Challenge of the Americas this year as well.
Wow, that's a busy winter right there.
Yeah,
that's nonstop. So you kick off January between Winter Series, Winter Series, Florida Winter Tour, and then Challenge, and then you cap the whole thing off. You also got a Winter Nationals all in there. It's a busy opening of the year there for you.
No, for sure. It's been pretty hectic. A lot of time away, so it's just. I'm really happy that the people are getting better, and we've had some pretty good results this year. But also some of the new guys that we brought into the national scene have really been making good improvements. So that's really what you have to look at. It's you want the results, but you also want to help people get better.
Sure.
Yeah.
And when you're bringing somebody in, what is the biggest difference a driver under your? Let's say they're making their national debut. Let's say. From a local or regional level person, what's the big difference for them? You talk about the competition. Is it really the level of competition is the big change, or is there more to it than that?
I think that a lot of the drivers that come on to race nationally for the first time, they just carry a lot of pressure with them. So you really have to try to walk them through that, not letting the pressure become too overwhelming. And the competition's a little bit better, but the biggest thing is there's just a lot more good drivers. Yeah. So regionally, you still have a few good drivers. And, to be honest, I think some of the drivers that run regionally are as good as anyone nationally. But the difference is there's just like 20 drivers deep that can get it done at any point. So
yeah, the overall depth is the big difference where you're getting after it. Maybe you're fighting for a top 5, top 10. You go nationally and you could be off a little bit and be 20th, 30th.
Definitely. Yeah. Regionally, you can be a couple tenths off. You're still close to top 5. And a lot of time nationally, if you're averaging 2 tenths off, you're not top 15.
Yeah, mid-packish.
Yeah,
at best, for sure. And obviously, the tracks are a little bit different, right? And that kinds of stuff with them being a little bit more open, a little bigger tracks. Like you guys just did Utah not too long ago. It was NOLA before that, and obviously things finish up at Indiana.
Definitely. They're all high-speed flowing tracks, a little bit different than what we have around here in California.
Exactly. One of the, quote, bigger tracks would be Cal Speed, and it's already got an asterisk on it because of the slurry and parking lot. But still, it's 3/4 mile long, and the longest straight's only 550. So it's still kind of that blend between old and new school. Where you like you say, you go to a NOLA, you go to these other places. The closest thing to like a Cal Speed-esque deal would be that new piece they added on to Indiana.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
The thing about Cal Speed is I think it's one of the most challenging tracks because you have a few different surfaces, and the track changes so much from day to day and throughout the weekend. Like, you start the race weekend, for instance, at Pro Kart, the track could be 2 seconds faster by the end of the weekend, and a lot of people can't keep up with that.
Right. So, when you're going to these other tracks, and you're trying to prep for that kinds of stuff, when you've got like a track like a Cal Speed where it does change so much, how do you prepare for these other courses when you don't have something like that in your backyard?
Well, I mean, basically, we've been doing it so long, it's just become pretty natural. We pretty much just start with a out of the box setup at every track we go. Even if we know, like, maybe the year before or 2 years before it was in a certain direction, we still like to start standard and work our way to that, because
And that's
the
factory
tracks-
standard?
Yeah,
Or- okay.
right out of the box, pretty much. And, the tracks just, they're not going to be optimal first session or first day, right? So it's
Right.
better to start standard and let the track progress a little bit, work on driving for the first half a day.
Not start
and then-
chasing your own tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when the track starts to come around, you can start making some small adjustments, as long as the drivers are, hitting their marks and not making mistakes, too many mistakes. So,
Right. Well, and as you say, you have been doing a little bit. Well, I mean, RPM's been around for damn near a decade here. We're going on, and
Yeah.
you've been doing it for a while.
for sure.
Maybe that's a nice segue to kind of get to little Ryan. When you were a munchkin, how did you get into racing in the first place? What was your racing experience?
Well, I mean, basically, since I can remember, I would watch, racing on TV. And then when I was around 5 years old or so, we got into slot car racing, believe it or
Oh,
not.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So we didn't really know anything about karting. We didn't even know that go-karts existed. So
It's still all here in SoCal you were at?
yeah, this was in Bakersfield.
Okay.
So I was born in Texas, but I moved to Bakersfield when I was around 4.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. Might as well
Yeah.
be Californian then at that point, right?
right. So we did that for a few years, and then I was 9. My parents separated, so we kind of stopped doing that for a little bit. But then
So
after
about 5 years of slot cars then?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
I was actually not bad for a kid. I was
Yeah?
beating a lot of adults out there.
Talking
Jeez Louise.
to Billy Musgrave about it, he says that's actually one of the more challenging things of slot car racing, because you're relying so much on one finger
Well,
to
yeah,
do all of this stuff.
you almost
know?
have 2, because you have this brake bias adjuster as well on the controller.
Really?
Oh,
So
wow.
like you can adjust how much brake when you let off the throttle, depending on if the corner's tighter or more flowy.
Is
Yeah.
it like
on the track.
so like engine braking essentially? Is that
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh wow.
So-
Yeah, I didn't even know it was that much.
That's
Yeah.
Jesus.
I know I've said it in a previous show before, but Luke Vasquez, who I worked for at Sidecart, when he was a munchkin, he started off on slot cars. And dude, he got sponsorship and friggin' he traveled around and whatnot. Was
Man, first class everywhere, I'm sure.
badass,
Yeah.
man. And so because it can be a big friggin' deal. And
Yeah.
so you're doing the slot car thing for about 5 or so years until you're 9.
Yeah, so I was around 10 when we were trying to find something to do together, right? Because my dad, his line of work were the oil fields, so he was
Oh.
traveling a lot, right? So
Okay.
sometimes 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, like a weird schedule, right?
Right.
So what we were looking to do is get into some sort of racing. So we were looking in maybe motocross or motorcycle racing, right?
Right.
So we were going around a couple different shops, checking it out, thinking about getting dirt bikes. And we saw this old cart in one of the bike shops. And I don't know, it didn't really look too appeasing to me. I think it was probably 20 years outdated at the time. So anyway, the people at the motorcycle shop told us about a kart shop up the road. So this was BKS, Orville Wright. He still does a lot of Yamaha stuff up there in Bakersfield. So we went and checked that out, and a lot of the karts were, up to date that he had in there. And
What is up to date? I didn't even ask you. You said you were 10, but what
this
year
was
is that?
97, and
Okay.
the stuff we were looking at was like the one in the motorcycle shop was probably 70s.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
it just didn't
Some of
really...
the guests we've had would just gone and run that.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, oh, that's a good deal.
So anyway, we went to this kart shop, Orville, and we were looking at the karts, and I was like, okay, yeah, this looks really cool. I want to do this. So Orville wouldn't let us buy a kart until he invited us out to watch a race.
Oh, interesting.
So the race we went to was IKF Region 7 at Bakersfield, actually.
Wow.
Oh,
So
neat.
there were, I don't even know how they fit so many karts on that half-mile track, but 30, 40 karts
That's
in a
crazy.
field.
And that's your first race you go and see.
That's the first one I went to
Wow.
see. It was a night race.
Did you guys
So-
think like
A night
man,
race too.
like, this can
Wow.
be really intimidating, or were you super excited when you got to see that race?
I was pretty excited.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
'Cause-
awesome.
So you're predisposed to the national stuff anyway. He's been in the deep end of the pool
Yeah,
since
yeah.
day one.
So anyway, we were there, and my dad happened to see a friend of his from work that, he did a different line of work, but they kind of, I don't know, kind of did stuff together at some point because that guy's business, they would, go to some of the rigs and do whatever. But
Sure.
it was Greg Sandine, Caleb Sandine's dad. So it was cool that we saw somebody that, my dad knew, and yeah, he kind of told him a little bit more about
a little bit more of the
sport
ropes
and-
a little bit.
Yeah,
so between
exactly.
Orville and then Sandine, you guys are kind of like, all right, we got some of the information that we need. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you end up? You go back to the kart shop and get your first go kart?
Yep. It was a 91 Invader.
All right.
So
So 91 Invader in 1997.
yeah.
So you're already a little bit behind the 8 ball
Right.
there, but for a first time kart, pretty good to start out on.
Yeah, I mean, there were better karts. I think at that time were when the top karts were just coming around, and
Okay.
they were pretty fast, but we didn't know any better, right? We're just getting into the sport. So
And what class are you on? What engine?
this was, it was weird. It was called Junior 1, but you could run a Yamaha or a Comer
At the same time?
at the same time. The Yamaha had 3-hole can with a restrictor, a 600 restrictor plate.
Wow. They should have
So-
gone no-ho can just to try to keep that thing. Wow.
So we ended up going with the Yamaha.
Okay.
And, I don't know, my first day out, it was pretty terrible.
Oh, really?
Where were you at?
At Bakersfield. It's
Okay.
only a 29-second track. I think I was probably 8 seconds off the pace.
Trying to figure out how to get around the joint.
Yeah, I was lifting on the straight, and yeah,
Absolutely. That's how you got to go the first time out. Figure
So-
things out.
exactly. So just kept working at it. Did a bunch of practice days, and yeah, I just started racing. And I don't know. It took me about 6 months to really kind of get up to speed, but then the closest we can get was like 3-4 tenths off.
Okay.
So
And is that the club level?
yeah, we ended up having to get a Comer to be able to keep up.
Oh,
So,
okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. Were you? I mean, you're not a small man now. Were you a pretty big kid?
No, not too much. I was never really overweight in any category that I was running.
Height?
So I wasn't really too tall back then
Yeah.
either.
So you
it's
and
kinda
Cameron
normal.
Jolson kind of did the same thing. You both ended up being very tall dudes and
Right.
whatnot, but as kids, you at least stayed short enough,
Right.
long enough, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's it. So you're so junior 1, and you're 10, 11 in there.
yep.
You said about 6 months, things start to click, start
Yeah.
going, but you're still about 3/10 ish off.
Yeah. So we got into a car accident, believe it or not,
Oh wow!
and that set me back like 3 months. I couldn't race.
Jeez.
Oh,
So
man.
we ended up like, oh, it's crazy. We rolled my dad's truck down this canyon, and it's like Kern Canyon. It's like over by the Kern River going to Lake Isabella.
Yeah.
And we rolled like 7 or 8 times. I still have some of the photos of the truck. That
Jeez
thing was
Louise.
destroyed.
Wow.
Like, surprised we even walked away, right? No injuries though.
Oh wow!
But took a while. You had to do the insurance, get another vehicle, go through all that. Then eventually would start driving again.
Sure.
So it wasn't so much that you were injured; it was just the financial stuff.
Yeah.
You were.
And
Yeah.
no,
okay.
no truck to get you there.
Oh,
Right?
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Wow.
Man.
So at what point do you start getting back in the seat, running all the time? Are you 11 or 12 or where?
yeah,
we
I was still 10 at this point.
Okay.
Because that only set me back for like 3 months, and then we started running again. We were only staying local in 97 was my first year. So the next year, 98, I was still in another year. We didn't get another cart because we were going to move up anyway the next year. So we're
Right,
like,
to
okay,
junior
we'll
two.
just deal with this
The Invader for now.
for now. But I ended up qualifying pole a couple times, got a 3 or 4 seconds. I never won a race, but in cadet
big was
in 98.
how big was Bakersfield Club at the time?
It was decent. They
Yeah.
had probably 15, 20
In the
cadets.
class?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. I know that a lot of the clubs were big, but I mean, Bakersfield, obviously, we're going a little bit north
Yeah.
of here. So, all right, so you guys are rolling. It's obviously you had IKF race too, so it must have been decent.
Right.
But you have 15, 20 kids you're running with there. When you get in this 90, you said you get a pole, you're towards the sharp end. That sounds like that gap is starting to come down. And
Yeah.
is this a proper cadet chassis, or is this still an
This
adult
is
size?
like in between. So
Okay.
it's not a proper cadet, but it's not an adult cart either. It's like
Okay.
kind of in between on the wheelbase.
Gotcha.
So I don't remember the exact length, but
But it was
it-
good enough for you to learn on, for sure.
yeah, definitely. So
Gotcha.
and then we started catching a couple of like different club races at some different tracks as well. So
Where
Did
else
you
did you
start
go
coming further down? Yeah. Did
we
you start
went
coming further down south?
we went up north for our first one. It was Kerman Kart Club. So that's east of Fresno.
Okay.
Okay.
But they
So-
weren't at the fairgrounds at that time, right?
No, there was an actual Kerman kart
Right.
track in Kerman.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, and it was small too, about 30 seconds.
Okay.
So
And so you go and you run there and you apply the things that you've been learning at
Yeah.
Bakersfield. How'd you do?
not as well as I was doing in Bakersfield, but
Okay.
decent. So
Right.
it's hard for me to remember, every detail, but I remember doing decent, but it wasn't like great.
So
or
you
anything,
weren't out to lunch on your first trip to a new track, but
Yeah.
there's still more to be desired.
for
when-
sure.
So how did you don't win any races? How'd you do in the overall championship? And was this enough to kind of springboard you into the juniors?
Yeah, so I finished third in the championship that year.
Okay.
So it wasn't too bad. And then we go into junior in 99, we get a brand new Invader. I don't know, Orville was like a big Invader guy, and then we were running with him. He would do our engines, and so yeah, it's just kind of what we did, right?
Okay.
We end up running Junior Sportsman our first year. We would
Okay.
catch a couple of other races as well, but
So you're still doing Bakersfield primarily.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. First junior race, qualified pole, won.
Wow.
Nice.
It's pretty cool.
Wow.
So,
So a little extra power and
Just,
whatnot. Newer cart, right?
proper cart, brand new cart, like versus something that was 6 years old.
Right.
So 6
Right.
or 7 years old. So
And you obviously had no issues going a little bit quicker.
no, that was no problem.
Gotcha. So right out of the gate, you go hot and
Yeah.
and you make things happen. How's the rest that 99 year go? And do you start branching out?
Yeah, it was good. We started catching a couple of IKF races. We did 1 or 2 Region 11 races, and then 2 Region 7 races. Yeah, I got destroyed. I think I was maybe not even top 30.
And Region 11's NorCal, right?
Yeah, and there were some good drivers back then.
And,
you
and
know?
was Bakersfield 11 or 7? I can't remember where the split is for the.
It was kind of like almost in between, but
Yeah.
when IKF went there, it was the Region 7.
so okay. So it was technically 7.
Yeah.
And then 11 would be Kerman.
Yeah.
And Prairie City and those kinds of
Right.
things up north. Okay,
Exactly.
gotcha. So
So-
you went and did up north. You went to some of those.
Yep.
And I mean, it's widely known 7 was the big dog deal.
Went to Santa Maria for one. There was actually ran the National. I don't know what it was. It had to do with work or something, but I ended up only running 1 day at the Grand Nationals in Santa Maria.
Oh, man.
Could have run 3, but yeah, I don't know. It was nothing special. I was probably out of the top 20 somewhere.
But you'd only been running here for a couple of years. You're
Yeah.
getting Bakersfield dialed in, and now you guys are starting to visit these other bigger races,
Yep.
kind of dipping your toes in there. Before we start going on to the rest of that, how'd the local stuff go? Did you end up becoming the guy in your
that
class?
was pretty good. I ended up getting the track record,
Okay.
which hadn't been broken in a few years.
Uh-huh.
So did that. I ended up winning like 9 out of the 12 events that year.
It's safe
Oh,
to say
wow.
you won the junior sportsman championship.
Yeah.
And who are you racing with at the club level? You remember?
There was like this one kid, Michael Clark. He ended up dying in a car accident.
Oh,
They had a
geez.
memorial race for a long time for him. It was called the Michael Clark Memorial.
Okay.
But another kid, Michael Varela, Kevin Callahan, Chad Lance, this other kid, Alan Ballard, would come. Actually, Cole Nelson came for one of the races. I was not too happy with that one. He ended up beating me barely, but it was like he was multinational champion, yellow plates, all that.
Right.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't really care who it was. I felt like I could beat anybody there, and
Right.
I was just not happy.
Yeah.
But
So-
probably learned a couple things. And
Definitely.
again, Nelson,
Yeah.
Invader,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
I assume he's on the same ride that is
Exactly.
built in-house.
Yep.
But that's kind of cool. You get a chance to. Were you on the same exact equipment, chassis wise?
Mine was a little bit different. I think theirs was smaller tubing.
Okay.
But I mean, like I said, I wasn't overweight, but I wasn't like a rail either.
Mhm.
Those kids at that time, Peterson and Nelson and some of the other guys they were really little, right?
Mhm.
So they made smaller tubing chassis for them, for the
Gotcha.
smaller guys.
So you end up kicking ass, taking names, being the guy at Bakersfield,
Yeah.
and you do okay. It sounds like in the Region 11, but Region 7 is like holy shnikes, and then the
Right.
Grand National is a bit more of a challenge too.
Yeah.
But you're getting a chance to try these different things, and this is what you're 12, right?
Yeah. Yep.
what happens year 2 of the juniors?
Year 2, we just we start running. See, the first year we were just running junior sportsman 3-hole, right?
Gotcha.
So I did catch 2 or 3 races in junior super sportsman, so it's a little bit faster, about a second faster a lap. And the next year we moved to that class. Some of the same drivers because they kind of moved up too. Just pretty much the same thing. I mean, I think this one kid got a little bit faster, so he was giving us some pretty good competition. But I still won a bunch of races that year, broke the track record in that class as well, and went to do a few more regional races and started to do a little bit better. So,
what do you think the difference was? I mean, obviously you haven't been running very long, but you were really getting it done in the junior level here at Bakersfield. Okay, yeah, talent from other places and whatnot. Do you think it was just sheer the amount or the lack of time trying out different tracks, or what was the big challenge?
Yeah, the biggest thing was just laps around other places. Every time I'd go to one of these races, it was like my first time at the track. So, and I wouldn't go ahead of time and test. None of that was a possibility for us. So we just show up on the race weekend. We were lucky enough to be able to go for the Friday practice.
So you think maybe when that year 2, when you go there, maybe a different class, but okay, I've been to this track before. I've been to this track before. You kind of remember what the hell's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Start running a little bit better and closer to the front. So kind of cracking the top 10 at times, which was still pretty good. They were deep fields. They were, 30, 40 drivers and the really, really talented drivers as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Who you running with regionally at that time?
Regionally was like Colin Fleming, Charlie Kimball, Matt Jaskell, Joel Miller.
So nobody of note, really. Nobody very good.
I mean, Joel, exactly, right? These guys
shnikes.
were pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, you got Kimball, obviously, we know him from IndyCar. Joel Miller ended up being one of the freaking best karters. And he ended up getting, I think, sports cars too, right?
Yep.
I think so. So you're going against some cats.
Yeah,
You're rolling. You're rolling this whole deal. Something Derek usually asks, and it's popping in my head, was karting just for fun, or did you guys have like a ladder? Did you want to move up at all?
Yeah, I had aspirations of wanting to race cars for a living.
Gotcha.
So I think a lot of kids that get into karting feel the same. They want to do that.
Yeah.
So what were you watching at this point for racing on TV?
It was mostly NASCAR. It's funny because I've kind of transitioned to not really liking too much NASCAR, and I'm more of a Formula One guy myself now.
Right.
But growing up, it was like kind of what my dad watched, and my dad had raced cars before I was born.
Gotcha.
A little bit, and it was just kind of what he always watched, so I'd watch it as well.
Right.
So.
And I mean, there's been some stock car guys coming out of the Bakersfield area. I mean, I know Harvick came from there, and that's a few years prior to you.
Yeah, definitely.
In that area, but I'm not sure where he would have been at that point.
Yeah.
You following him at all
I was
at that
5
point?
years old, going out to the local track there, Mesa Marin, watching races sometimes on like Saturday night, and I remember well seeing Harvick there winning races. When he was probably 16.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
man.
So it was
like, why not me? This could be me.
So it was cool. There's a lot of people that came out of there that did pretty well. So.
For sure.
And actually talking to Race Liberante about the Bakersfield group on the oval side, it's like that was. Yeah, it's just Bakersfield. It's kind of a local track, right? But that was actually such a good track to measure yourself against everyone else there.
Yeah.
I think he had said like if you could win there, you could win damn near anywhere.
Yeah,
it was that kind of oval track.
Yeah.
When you're doing the juniors there, you're starting to get a little bit better. When do things start like really clicking for you, and do you end up going full regional at any point?
Yeah, we end up getting closer at that point, but so where it clicked, I remember there was a Region 7 race at Xplex in just out of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I would always have the problem of overdriving the cart a little bit. So one of the practice sessions, my dad stuck me out behind Fleming and Kimball. They were kind of on the track near each other. And I was running behind them. And
this still juniors?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was probably the morning warm-up, actually. And I felt like they were kind of holding me up, but at the end I come in and I'm like, what were they doing? Like not pushing or what? Like, no, I ended up being pretty quick. So just like I remember their braking points were completely different than mine.
Okay.
And the roll speed was a little bit different, and it kind of clicked there, and I was like surprised that I was fast because it felt like pretty easy. to do, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So whereas before you're pushing so hard that you're making a lot of mistakes, can't understand why you're off pace, right?
Right.
So it's a lot of it's mental.
You just felt like you were going slower, but you're
Yeah,
just driving eeasier and going
Yeah.
faster.
exactly.
And you
Nice.
just said mental. Was that the big difference, or was there anything else that was maybe attributed to that? Had you been to Xplex before?
I had been there the year before, but
Okay.
I didn't do very well. But no, I think it was just that mental mindset. You know, I go out one session literally around these guys, know that I can kind of run around them. And it was just kind of
Confidence booster.
Yeah, confidence boost. I knew I could be fast, and that was it, you know?
Yeah.
So, but that race didn't turn out too well, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
I qualified pretty well, qualified 5th. I was running in the top 3 in the pre-final, and I ended up getting wrecked out.
Ugh.
Bent the axle, done, had to start last, right? So on the start of that final, made up some pretty good spots, but I ended up flipping on the opening lap, broke my collarbone.
Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
man.
So it was unfortunate because it was a really good weekend that could have been used to learn a lot. So
Right.
it just ended in a little bit of a disaster.
Yeah. I mean, you have
Jeez.
this click moment. Things are
Yeah.
like starting to come on, and like, just kidding. We're gonna sideline you. Yeah.
Did you
man?
Did you drive over the back of someone, or how'd the flip happen? Do you
So
remember?
basically, you know, I had a pretty good start, going 3 wide down the inside,
Mhm.
past a few rows, because I knew I had to make it up some spots pretty early. So anyway, there was somebody backwards in the middle of the track coming off of turn 2, going into turn 3. So I went to the far right of the track to avoid him. And the kid just in front of me, not quite all the way. He didn't see me. He turned right as well and came straight into my front tire. And
Oh, just
we still
launched
had
you.
front plastic bumpers, but their front tires were completely exposed. And we had
Right.
metal rear bumpers that didn't extend past the frame.
So it was
right?
tire to tire.
Tire to tire, just went right up over him and landed upside down.
man.
So
Luckily, your collarbone broke your fall, though, or else it could have
Right.
been really bad.
Yeah. If you were a shorter kid, it would have been a problem.
So you hurt yourself, and then what was the time off for you? How long were you out of the seat?
that was probably 8 weeks maybe before
Oh.
I started driving again.
That's tough.
So-
That's
and
tough.
where was Xplex at in the schedule? Was that mid-season or?
Yeah, that was probably toward the middle of the year,
Okay.
like maybe a little bit earlier. But we weren't really committed to the whole regional schedule anyway.
Gotcha.
So we were just trying to get a little bit more experience and try to learn and get a little bit better at that point.
Well,
So,
yeah. So you end up getting this mental, like I said, you get a little bit of a juice there. Like, okay, sweet, figured this out,
Yeah.
and then that happens. How are things when you come back into the seat? Or you, again, too, you atrophy, you got all this other kinds of crap from the frickin' collarbone. So
yeah.
how are things when you get back into the seat?
Yeah, it was good. Leading up to that, I was getting a little bit of shit from, my dad, wondering if I was going to
Okay.
still be fast or whatever, right? So,
Right.
but no, it ended up all right. I was still fast and kind of just right back to where I left off. to be
Gotcha.
Nice.
honest.
Gotcha. So that year's
yeah.
a little bit off.
Yep.
And that's still juniors. Are we towards the end of juniors here at that point?
Toward the end of that second year of junior, I still ran junior for 2 more years after that.
Okay, so pretty much the full
yeah.
length on you can for the juniors, right?
The age was really weird. It was a little bit different back then. You had to be a little bit older to go to senior, and my birthday fell in January, so I was kind of forced to
Gotcha.
run that extra full year. If I would have been like 3 weeks earlier on my birthday, I could have moved up earlier.
Dang it.
So, but
Priorities are obviously wrong when before you were around.
yeah,
And you were still on the Invader at this time?
yeah, I was still on the Invader, and I actually only missed one club race. Still won the championship
Oh,
that
wow.
year.
Okay.
in that deal. So,
Couldn't even give those kids a chance. Jeez
Yeah.
Louise. Breaks his collarbone, comes back, and puts a hurt on him anyways.
Yeah.
You know, the
Louise.
kids at the club were like, "Oh, cool, Ryan broke his collarbone. Like, we have a shot."
He's out there running one-handed, no problem.
Did you? Did you stay on the Invader for the rest of junior years?
Yeah, I was on Invader for all 4 years in junior.
Oh, okay.
So,
So your first one, the not cadet deal, and then all the juniors are on the Invader deal. After you did that, you finished that year, another club championship,
yeah.
and how's the next year go, and how's those last couple of junior years go, and is that where it clicks, or does something happen later in seniors?
I think it was about 2001 where the results started to come a little bit more frequent and more consistently on the podium and everything else.
So you started doing more regionals and stuff?
Yeah, we didn't really commit to the full regional year for 2001 either, but we tried to do more of them. And ended up going HPV was what it was called, which is KPV now.
Right.
So like a Horseman piston valve engine, kind of like similar to a KA as far as how it looks, but there's no reed cage. So we end up going with that for the primary focus the next year. We end up doing well on that as well. And we go to Willow Springs for a Region 7 race. Ran top 5 on both days in 2 different classes there. We do a couple of more. I actually went to Riverside Adams, and that place was pretty difficult. It was like 2-wheeling there.
You hadn't done too much SoCal stuff at this point.
No.
Yeah, it was either Bakersfield or going up north.
Yeah, I go to Adams, and this Invader would not work there. I got to tell you, man, it was like 2-wheeling everywhere, bicycling,
overstuck,
and big time. I think I ended up like 12th on Saturday. I was like 7th on Sunday, and that felt like a win. Like,
man,
how hard you had to work for that. Yeah,
it was not easy. For sure.
And you think that's it was a lot to do with you were able to figure out the track okay, but it was the car was not playing nice?
I feel like that. I mean, at the end of the day, I think my dad and the people around me were just kind of pointing the finger at me, but still looking back on it, I just don't think the
that's
cart
not how you remember it now.
Yeah. I don't think the cart was great everywhere, right?
Gotcha.
The cart could be good at some places, like lower grip places, but if the grip came down, you were struggling a little bit.
Gotcha. So you end up top 5 of those the other you said Willow Springs.
Yeah,
with
and we go to
but then
Santa
you go
Maria.
to Adams, and it's a struggle bus.
Then we go to Santa Maria for the Nationals. So the Nationals happen to be there again.
That could be a lower grip track. Was it back then?
It had grip. We were bicycling that year as well. But I ended up running 9th on Sportsman. I ended up 6th on Super Sportsman, and we almost won HPV. We got 3rd.
Wow.
So it was a battle between John Zartarian, myself, and Caleb Sandine. So he was actually kind of one of the guys I looked up to a lot in karting. So it was pretty exciting to be able to challenge him for something because he won a lot of stuff back then.
Gotcha. Sandine did.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And that's the family that you had known.
Yeah.
When you first got in.
Yep.
That's cool.
So it was pretty cool. So that 3rd at the Nationals was that was kind of like the last click there, right? That I needed.
Right.
So,
right.
When you came down south, what were some of the names that you were racing down here? I know you just mentioned those 2 guys, but obviously the Bakersfield and NorCal were a lot different crowd from what we had down here.
Yeah, there was it's hard to remember everyone, but Robert Podlesny, there was this kid, Kyle Longmore, Nick Johnston. You guys maybe know Nick.
Oh, yeah.
Brett Smurs was racing. He was a little bit younger than me. Yeah, I mean, at that point in 2001, most of the really top juniors moved out of the class, like Fleming and Kimball and
right,
Irving and those guys, because I raced it against Travis as well. So, but yeah, I mean, by the time I really got up to speed, all those guys had moved on to something else.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay. And then I remember we were talking to Derek Zimmerman, and he said that he actually got a chance to race with you as well. Now, he was Adams exclusive for a long time. So you guys didn't really get a chance to meet up a whole lot.
No, that was when I started running full time, Region 7. That was like senior when we really started to hit it. In 2002, we kind of focused on Stars. There was a series called Stars of Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And
the national deal.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we focused on that.
Wait, so you went from kind of dabbling in regional to damn, this regional shit, we're going to bump up to nationals.
Yeah, the problem was that series was amazing on senior, but the junior, there was not as many drivers. They still had some pretty good drivers, but the
numbers weren't there.
The numbers weren't there like it needed to be, except for the finale, which was at Xplex. I ended up finishing 2nd there.
Oh, wow. So wait, why did you guys decide to do the national level and not a full run at regional? What made you make that bump?
To be honest, we just kind of liked the series. We liked that some of it was televised, and that's what we wanted to do.
And that was in the JICA motor, right?
No, that was still in Yamaha before they went JICA the next year.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you took the Yamaha and you went junior at the national level, but again, a little bit more, again, still want to be a race car driver, stuff like that. Now
Right.
you get a little more notoriety, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha. So you go, and at the finale, you get P2.
Yeah, I controlled most of the race. Just made a mistake with 2 to go. Actually, Kyle Longmore ended up winning that race. Nick Johnston ended up third. Just with 2 to go, there was like gravel. They called that place the rock pit or something like that. So there was gravel. Like, so if you go off the track, it gets gravel everywhere, right?
Okay.
So somebody from the lap before went off the track. Leaders come by. I'm in second, just waiting to make a move. And me and the person leading, which was Longmore, we both hit the gravel. We slid, but I hung a wheel. So that was coming to the white. And he got a little bit of a lead, and I couldn't close it in time to make a move.
Gotcha.
So that was disappointing, but
And that's the season
still
finale.
a good result.
Yeah.
It was like the national, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And
they
you
call
ran
it-
that whole national series?
Yeah, it was kind of like they had like more of an east and a west deal.
Oh, that's
So-
right. They did. And then they had the deal in the middle
Yeah.
at the end. That's right.
Mhm.
Gotcha. How'd you end up in the championship there for the West?
It was just second.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Gotcha.
But then the next year we moved to senior, still on Invader for half the year.
Oh.
And we moved there, and I ended up winning Region 7 race. It was in Button Willow.
So your first Region 7, your first regional, well, hell, your first big race outside of the club was when you moved up to seniors.
Pretty well, my first win.
That wasn't club. That wasn't that deal as far
Well,
as the
Region
overall.
7 was considered kind of like a national deal, right? So,
That's what I mean. So you,
Yeah.
but at Bakersfield, right? You basically killed them.
Yeah, that was there was no competition. We stopped running there, like at the club, in about end of 2001. We won our third championship, broke the third track record. So we had the track record in all the classes.
Gotcha.
Mm.
So we stopped running. Then Button Willow was built in 2002. We didn't really run there too much.
Mhm.
I did drive. I was one of the first ones to make laps there. There was 4 of us, and it was Colby Wright, myself, David Mayhew, and I'm trying to remember the other guy that drove. But we were like the first ones to drive on the track, and we went both directions, kind of see which way raced a little bit better.
Yeah.
But
Was it
Yeah, I
bumpy back
remember.
then too? No.
so smooth. It was really smooth.
Man, I bet
But-
that place has been so much. I mean, it's still pretty fun, but there's a few little bumps here and there that I'm
Yeah.
like, good golly, don't hit those wrong.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea.
I don't know if
deal.
it didn't cure right, because like first big race there, it already started to tear the asphalt up.
Oh, really?
Oh, man.
So I don't. Maybe they didn't use the right mix or something like that, right?
Man, I
So-
forgot that they'd gotten. Like, we talked to Rocky Moran the last episode, right? And there's so many tracks that got built right around the same time. Moran, Button Willow, Grand J.
You could see who did it right, who did
This-
it wrong, essentially.
This place obviously did it the best. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, so you go from having a few options to just a shit ton of options pretty damn fast. When you move up into the senior ranks there, and you say you win that Region 7 race, that was your first Region 7 win?
Yep, took a while, but we never really did too many races. We did a few races here and there. So if we would have just went full in, then I think I would have improved a lot faster. But I felt like we were, I don't know, maybe kind of held back a little bit, like just kind of like getting pumped up on winning the local stuff. Like
Okay.
Well, and I
the
was
guy
gonna-
we were running with kind of wanted me to stay there.
Mm.
It was like benefiting him. It was good that we were winning too, but I think that if we would have just committed to the bigger stuff, which I think we could have, I would have probably improved a lot faster.
Yeah. Well, you
I was
go
gonna-
second at the Stars, and then you end up going back to the regional, which, like as you say,
Yeah.
is kind of like a national at that point.
Well, I was going to say, so it wasn't so much the financial stuff holding you back. It was just your obligation to the, or whatever the guy you're running
Yeah.
with wanted you to do the club stuff.
Yeah.
When you move up into senior, you said you were still on the Invader for the first half of the year. Did you start to think about maybe, I mean, going into senior, did you think that that might be the end of the Invader run for you?
It started in 2002, which the kart was pretty good, but it was the moment that we switched shops who we were running with. So
okay.
in 2002, middle of the year, we were struggling a little bit with power. I mean, the guy had made really good engines, so it wasn't about that. So it's just a matter of a lot of the races we were going to, he wasn't at. So we ended up going with Josh Robertson at Pitts.
Okay.
So we were kind of running with Pitts at that time. Gotcha. And then after, they got us to move on to CRG. So
you go from an Invader to CRG.
Yeah,
Pitts
that's
Power.
right. They became like the SoCal dealer for CRG, I think. Pitts wasn't it?
Yeah, and then that's that year in seniors where things start to really go on the next level.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I never really broke out and like won a ton of races. I was always there in contention, but I felt like we just didn't have like a huge budget. Maybe we were doing this on probably $30,000 a year. So it's kind of like a shoestring budget a little bit, and we weren't really able to go test ahead of time or anything like that. Biggest competition, the guy that beat me more often than not was Matt Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty aggressive. We got into it a few times, but we raced hard, and it was just I don't know. I beat him a few times, but it wasn't easy, Raced against Chris Hatfield a lot at that time as well, and also Derek Zimmerman.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, a lot of the guys that we see around the paddock these days, you're I hadn't asked this before, but what's a little side thing on that? You've been around karting for a long time and raced a lot of the guys you're still in the paddock with. Now, what is it like from your point of view, having grown up, if you will, from a kid to an adult, a man, moving on with your life, doing other things, still in karting, and there's the same guys that you were racing when you guys were just kids. I mean, what's that like, kind of? You ever look across the way and see Matty J or any of these other guys and go, man, I remember we were racing this thing.
Well, and to add on to that, because him and I just talked about this the other day, do you still see Matt as the 16-year-old you were racing? Right. Or do you see him like, oh, no, this is an adult I'm talking now? Or in your guys' eyes, are you still seeing each other as the racers years ago?
When I was racing Matt, I was around 16, 17, and he was probably a few years older than me, so 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I mean, I see, Matt, I've known him forever. So he's kind of like, he's almost like a brother, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So just, we've known each other for a long time. At one point, I even was his mechanic for a few races.
Oh, wow.
So,
neat.
Yeah, after. But,
and getting a chance to hang out with him and be around him and Zim and Hattie and all these different guys, it's got to be pretty neat.
We've all known each other forever, so it's like.
And now you're all working in the industry at the same time, too.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty neat to know that you guys all, able to stick it out in karting and all make a name for yourselves in your own way.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember seeing Trevor Allen, who I'm not sure if he still does, but he would do a little bit of wrenching for Raleigh. He's from the Northwest. And I remember seeing him for the first time since we were kids. And I raced with him when I was 12. And I think I saw him again when I was here. So I would have been 30. It'd been like 18 years, and I look, and I'm like, is that freaking Trevor Allen right there? And I'm like, boom, 12 years old again.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap, that's nuts.
So funny the time warp you can have when you look at someone like that.
Rolled on back.
So you go from the Invader to the CRG, and when you jumped in the CRG, were you like, I've been held back, or was there a different thought that you had with it, or is it just different?
It's just different, to be honest. I think the biggest thing that if I could look back on it, I would have probably replaced the kart, if we had the budget to do after 6 months each time. But I think we ran them. We were really good for the first 6 months, and then we started to lose performance. Couldn't figure out why, but to be honest, I think the chassis was just worn out. Too many days on it. That was the biggest thing the CRG.
Oh, the CRG.
But the Invader stuff was a lot stiffer, right?
So
it they didn't really wear out.
And what at this point, 16 or so, how tall are you? You're still about average height for a kid, or did you have your growth spurt?
Probably around 5'9". or
Okay.
so, 5'10".
So
I was
still,
just say, if you're the height you have now, I'm like, I'm not surprised the thing's
Yeah.
bicycling. You know? So-
I'm almost 6'3" now. So.
yeah.
Wait, I was thinking about that. You got you, and then like say a Cameron, and there's like a Jess Peterson. I'm thinking about these
Yeah.
tall dudes, and go-karts aren't big, like you said earlier about the who was running Nelson and whatnot. It was smaller people.
Yeah.
Karts like smaller people. This is
Yeah.
the way it is. I mean, hell, I'm almost 5'10", and there's a lot of me on the top half, and
Yeah.
the karts they don't like that as much as a little Matty J or something like that. It's just,
Yeah, I think another thing that's important is, if you can have a lot of lead bolted to the chassis, 20 to 30 pounds, like the cart's going to handle better because the lead's so low.
so you can being able to move things around.
Manipulate it a little bit
Yeah, just
differently.
keeping the lower center of gravity. I think you can attack the corner harder without the chassis getting upset, you know?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
whereas if you're, say, not overweight, but if you're at weight with no lead on the cart, you're going to struggle a little bit
That's my life, Ryan.
at the high level,
is my
right?
life.
So,
I need to start. No, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say no.
I kinda
it's not worth it.
For me, it's kind of been nice because they've Formula Works has put too much lead on the cart on practice day, and then I don't weigh myself till after morning warm up. I'm like, I'm about 15 pounds heavy. This is only going to get better, and I'm like, I take all this weight off, and I'm only left like a 4-pounder. But I'm like, nice. That was like half a second left on the table right there. You know,
It's all mental, baby. It's all
Yeah.
mental. When you're in seniors, going back to the thought process to move up and try to be a race car driver, that kind of deal. You're in seniors, starting to race the adults and whatnot. Or you have these aspirations to still get in a car, or do you ever get a chance to try some of that?
to be honest, I did. At the end of my second year in senior, I ended up getting a little bit of a unique opportunity, but it kind of fell through after I moved back there. But I had a deal to go run a super late in Michigan.
Oh,
so,
wow.
So I was like,
How did that happen?
just to believe it or not, it was like online racing. I was doing some online racing
Okay.
back then, and I met
Like
some
NASCAR
people.
2003 status?
Yeah,
Nice.
stuff like that. So I ended up moving to Michigan. The deal was I was going to run the super late, and this guy who was sponsoring the whole deal was going to stay with him and his family. I was going to coach his kids in karting, and then after a few years, they'd kind of move up into the car, and maybe I would be into
This is your
something
second
else.
year of seniors?
After second year of senior.
So you're
yeah.
what,
I was
17?
just 18.
Just 18.
Just turned 18,
Okay.
and literally just packed my bags and moved to
Wow.
Michigan on my own.
Wow. And so
Like,
you were karting here
It was probably the week after I turned
18.
18 in 2005.
Wow. And as you said, January, right? So
Yeah.
you finished that second year. So
Mhm.
16 and 17, you're in seniors, doing pretty decent. And then you get this opportunity. So, hey, I'm out. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm heading over there. And you said it kind of fell through. What
yeah, I
happened?
ended up testing a little bit in the car, and we were pretty good. We were pretty fast. But this guy was a home developer. He ended up going bankrupt. It was
Oh,
he was a
man.
developer, and he was like had this huge project. He had everything invested in. It was for GM employees. The homes were supposed to be for GM employees, and
Okay.
GM shut like 2 plants down
Oh,
in that
wow.
year. If you guys remember,
Oh, man.
I don't.
and it just killed his business.
Yeah.
Tanked. So
You went from having all this opportunity to game over real quick.
yeah. So then I tried to stay out there and I don't know, try to work on some funding to go do something, but I just came a little short on trying to get enough money, and it came to a point after being out there for a year and a half that I had to make a decision. Like, what am I going to do? I'm not
Right.
going to live here. I have no family, no one there, right?
Mhm.
Moved
Right.
there on my own. So what am I going to do? I just have to do something, and it can't be this, right?
Right.
So
So you end up coming back this way?
yeah, I was weighing my options. Maybe could have done it different, but I was either going to go to North Carolina or move back to California, but I knew I didn't want to go back to Bakersfield. I just didn't really like the town that much. It didn't really have much to offer for me.
Mhm.
So my sister was living in Temecula at the time, so she said that I can stay with them for a little while. And I came back, and that's what I did.
The thought process was, I'm going to go back to Temecula, kind of get my feet underneath me here. And then did you have an
Yeah.
idea what you were going to do?
I was
or-
going to try to come up with some funding and try to race something at Irwindale.
Ah,
but-
okay. So
be
the thought
honest-
process was still go racing, not
Yeah.
necessarily get a job and
Right.
blah, blah, blah.
but everything changed pretty quick, right? You start to realize it's pretty difficult to come up with money when you don't have any, right? So,
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
that's where everything just changed, and it turned from, I'd started to get back into it. I needed to make some money because I didn't have anything.
Right.
So just started, I actually, believe it or not, to how I used to get work when, I didn't have any job or anything. I just walked around the track on race weekend. I'd go to the track with Chris Reckleton, and I'd walk around the track asking different people that they still knew me. I wasn't out of the sport for that long.
Yeah.
If anybody needs a mechanic. And I just started getting jobs like that.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Ended up working with a lot of good guys like that.
Yeah, so you end up coming back here into California, and again, like you mentioned, it was not about getting a job. It was, I'm going to get back into the racing scene. And then you're like, oh, this ain't really working out so well for me. And so you and Freckleton are just walking around like...
No, he's going to the track anyway. So I have like no vehicle or anything, right? So
I'm tagging along.
Yeah, exactly. And every time I found work. So
and you said you're, this is going to be early 20s now at this point?
Yeah, I think I was around 19,
almost 20.
Because I was there about a year and a half.
Gotcha.
Came back in 06, middle of 06, probably about May, June.
Karting is hopping.
Yeah,
karting is still rolling pretty good.
I missed a pretty good year. It kind of sucked because we were just I was just getting pretty fast, right? So I missed like a really good year. 2005, if I was racing karts, it would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
so you end up instead going around here and going, hey, who needs a mechanic? Yeah,
I'd go to all the regional races and do that. Started working with this kid, Cody Kutzner, and he ended up quitting like 3 months after I started working for him. But his whole goal in his karting career was just to win a Duffy. So I helped him win a Duffy at the Nationals, which were here. And then he quit.
Oh, in the 2006 ones. Yeah.
He ended up, we won, and they were like done after that because that's all they ever wanted to do.
Wow.
And he moved on to like Legends cars or something like that.
Oh, wow.
But
so you're like, sweet, killed it, awesome, out of a job.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
pretty much.
So what do you do then?
Then I got an opportunity to work with Doug Fleming building motors. So
okay.
Yeah, Doug.
Had you done anything like that before?
No. I mean, I'd rebuilt my own carburetors when I raced, clutches and that sort of thing, but no, not really.
You weren't exactly your own mechanic back then, right?
It was like me and my dad would do it. Right. So I would have to work on my own stuff as well, but it was like both of us. We didn't have like a tuner or anything like that. So
and Fleming's not at Pitts anymore, right?
No, he has his own deal, Fleming Racing Engines. I ended up working for him, and he taught me how to build motors.
Wow.
So yeah, I learned a ton from Doug.
And how long are you're doing the motor building stuff? Are you still coming out and doing mechanicking and stuff?
It ended up working pretty well because he paid me pretty good. And so I'd work for him Monday through, Friday or whatever, or sometimes Thursday if there was a Friday at the track, right? And then I'd just go mechanic on the weekends for people, and ended up being pretty good. So
how long did you do that for?
Probably about 2 years
with Fleming, and then doing stuff on the weekend. And so you're rolling into like 2007, 2008, doing that kind of deal.
Yeah. So after Kutzner, I started working for Mason Murata. Just went up to his dad, Mike, and asked him if they needed help. They knew me from when I raced, so like a lot of people still knew me, right? So started working with him, and he had some pretty good results. Worked with him for a long time, like through most of his karting career.
Okay.
And I was building motors, and then I stopped building motors. I was going to have my first kid, Cody, and with my current wife, Katie, and we weren't married at the time, so it was like kind of a little bit of a surprise.
Okay.
But it made things pretty difficult. So I ended up moving back because I was living in Canoga Park working for Fleming. I ended up moving back over to this area, Inland Empire, and I stopped building motors so I can have a little bit more time. And I don't know. I was trying some different jobs, trying to figure it out, stuff away from karting.
Okay, so you're trying to do a little bit of a 9 to 5, kind of support the fam.
Trying something.
I was going to say, what was
the economy was terrible at that time.
What were some of the jobs that you jumped into that weren't karting?
So I did a little bit of construction stuff, like fencing and stuff like
I
that
did
with
fencing, yeah.
with Craig, Steve Craig,
Okay.
Jake Craig's dad.
Oh, okay.
And then I did some home automation stuff a little bit. I did what else did I do? I was delivering camping trailers at one point. Like
Wow.
just tried some different things, but to be honest, like I just needed to make the push in karting, and this
You
is
missed the track too?
Yeah, so I still went to the track on the weekends while I did this other stuff.
Yeah.
So it was quite difficult.
Yeah.
But the economy was in shambles. This was like 2008-ish, 9, and there was not a lot of work. I ended up going to NorCal for a little while, working with this Track Magic guy who was trying to push Track Magic. That did not end up working out. Kind of the guy was like up and down, couldn't really put the real focus on it. It was like, tried a few different things and floated around. Ended up working more with getting a little bit more work in karting, just to where it kept me stable so I wouldn't have to do too many other things. And I was working with Jake Craig in 2010. And we ended up winning all 5 classes at the Nationals. So
Holy
he entered
crap.
5 classes. He qualified on pole in 4 of them, won all 5 pre-finals, won all 5 finals. That was like pretty good deal.
How did you get hooked up with that?
Just knew him from the track, and I would always ask people, hey, if you guys need any help, let me know. Because like so people are running 4 classes in a weekend. Sometimes you can't do it with one mechanic.
Yeah,
right.
So becomes difficult. Then
at this point, you weren't trying to drive anymore, huh?
No, at this point,
make money, support the family. Yeah.
And you became the behemoth of a man you are now, the tall man. It'd be a little bit tough.
So yeah, because my oldest was born in August of 2008. So just trying to support
the kids, the family.
So do that. But then I ended up 2011 working for Buddy Rice. I got a little job offer there.
Oh, neat.
Started working with those guys. We had some pretty good success, but
was that Top Kart with them?
That was Tony Kart.
Tony, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it
was called Tony Kart West.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay.
So I worked with them for a little bit. To be honest, Buddy and I didn't really see eye to eye on some things. So it ended up not working out. Long story short, but
when you were, you're jumping around, you're helping out different teams, helping out different drivers, or you're just doing your own thing under an easy up with one driver for the weekend. Is it kind of starting to come around that like I want to be my own boss, or were you just going week into weekend at the point?
Yeah, I think it was like I knew from probably 2010 or 11 that I wanted to have my own team probably at some point. So it's just a matter of how do I make it happen.
Yeah. Was Tony Kart West aside from working with Doug Fleming and building the engines and whatnot, was that the first team that you were with? Really?
Yeah, that was the first team.
Everything else
with
is
some
individuals.
Other guys that were under teams. But it wasn't really like working for a team. Right?
You were the mechanic for them. They were under the team.
Right.
This is now you're actually with a team, and you kind of get exposed to how that kind of stuff worked.
Yeah, I learned how to run a race team.
Right.
Yeah.
So you learn all the little things that working with Mark Miller, Seth Nash, and Chris Raggleton. We were the main guys there. So, and then we had other mechanics that would come in on the weekends. But I learned a lot working with those guys and just how to operate a team. Learned a lot from Buddy as well. It just didn't end up working out.
Sure. And then at that point, you're like, all right, so you end up not doing that anymore. Do you immediately jump into the RPM game? And how does RPM get going?
So from probably summer of 2011 is when I ended up parting ways. I just continue. I ended up having a lot of work. I ended up going to a few races in Mexico, working with some of the people down there.
Wow.
Went to
just people
finals.
that you knew in the industry and whatnot.
Yeah. So I ended up going to grand finals in Dubai that year.
Oh, wow.
I had went in 2007 as well with Joey Collins.
Gotcha.
Which was kind of cool because Joey he was racing when I was racing. We went to the same high school and everything, right? He was quite a bit better than me at that time. It was like my first year in junior and his last. But then years later, I ended up working for him.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Dubai.
Yeah.
That's neat.
So he was fast that year too. So 2012, that's when I filed the fictitious business name and all that beginning, and said I'm going to do it. So, and then it just slowly building it from there. I ended up working with a few different drivers that year. And
do you remember who the first one was you got?
Well, I mean, most of it I was working with Mason Murata, and then Enzo Mestre.
Yeah,
And then I was working a little bit with who else was that year? Those were mainly the only ones. Diego Pelosi a little bit. You guys remember him at all?
Recognize the name.
Yeah.
So he's like a Masters guy, but just a few guys and a little bit with Dowler.
Griffin?
Like Griffin, Dowler, and then, Noel, and then Adam, the three brothers. So worked a little bit with them, went to Canada that year. And that's actually who I bought my trailer from, my first trailer.
Oh,
so
okay.
Kevin Dowler helped me get that.
Oh, cool.
So
You went from not having a bunch going on to this mammoth of a trailer.
yeah, it was old black.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Right.
So, how'd that first year go? Well, let me ask this instead. At the end of the first year of you starting RPM or having your own team, at the end of that first year, what'd you think?
Well, it was weird because I had like quote unquote a team, but I had no transporter, nothing. I was just working with some drivers and just trying to build it.
Mm-hmm.
We had some pretty good success. We didn't win any races, but I had Enzo running top 3 at pro tours and stuff like that. So it was we were definitely fast. But then the moment that I got the trailer, it seemed like I was able to get a few guys to commit and go to some of the races. So that first year I was borrowing trailers from people.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Literally, like the end of 2012, beginning of 13, I'm borrowing, like I borrowed a trailer from Murata, borrowed a trailer from someone else, borrowing Chris Freckleton's truck just to get the thing to the track. I'm like,
that's how you're getting you got the quote, the biz, and you've got the know-how and you got some customers, but some of the other little pieces you're like, I need to grab this, need to grab that and make it work. And is it working? Was it working that first year?
Yeah, we were fast. Everybody was
How about
fast.
financially? How about the business side?
No, that was hard.
Yeah,
that was not easy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So, but the results were good. We had guys that were up front and started to just invest a little bit.
Yeah, kind of make
more
a name
drivers.
for yourself.
You had to keep putting more money back into it, and it was hard because I also had, my second kid was born in 2011, Matthew, at the end of the year in December, and it's hard when you're trying to build something like that, build a business, and you can barely support yourself.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, we ended up. Katie and I ended up getting married in 2011. So it was just not easy.
Yeah.
It was very difficult.
And so you're getting some results, getting a name for yourself here as a biz and as a race team. Get your own trailer. All right, now you, as you say, get a few more drivers. Now, hey, you can be your kind of self-contained deal. You start picking off some more drivers and whatnot. It starts getting to be a little bit more, quote, let's say, a success as a business, perhaps. What's the thought process? And again, I had asked you earlier about the national thing versus local. Local, you spend less money to get to the track to try to make the money.
Yeah.
Is it local at the time, or was it always the big events right out of the gate?
It was just from the beginning, the big events. Like the biggest thing that I like is just the competition, right? So I want to try to go do these big races and try to win at the highest level that we have available, right? So, and part of that is, working with different drivers over the years and going to all these big events as a tuner or a mechanic, right? You start to get exposed to the highest level, and you really kind of want to keep doing that. Start your race team. Your goal is to win the biggest race in North America, right? Which is the Super Nationals.
For sure.
So,
As a driver, you were on, and kind of going back with your team stuff here. As a driver, you were on the Invader, and then you were on a CRG. Neither of those are the ones that you're using right now as a team,
No.
right? Yeah,
No.
you're on the OTK, I believe.
So when I started the team, we ended up going with Formula K. And that kart was really good at that moment. So I made a deal to do that. But then somebody else came in with a little bit more money and kind of took the deal out from under me. So then I was like, uh-oh, what do I do now? I worked with Buddy on the Tony kart, and they were now on Energy. But I'm like, well, to be honest, the best chassis is OTK. So why not go with the best? Like, it's, you're not going to be off with it. You're going to be somewhat...
You're always going to be close.
You're always going to be close, right?
Yeah.
So more often than not, it's going to be the fastest kart.
So pretty much right away, you were on the OTK. And
yeah,
you
after
have
the
been,
first year. First year we were on Formula K, and then we go OTK.
And you've been on that ever since.
Yeah.
So your OTK is the brand of choice, and you transferred from these other chassis to that. And again, you had a little bit of experience from the Buddy Rice thing. You've been on that chassis for a long time, and you've been able to stick with the same thing, and the evolution of it has happened, obviously through the years. Have you found that just sticking with one chassis, even though there could be ups and downs, instead of branching out to other things, has that been kind of the thought process? Stick with one thing and make sure you know what you can with that?
The biggest thing is I feel like loyalty means something. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I've tried to stick with Tony Kart and try to be loyal with that. Maybe it can go somewhere down the road, right? So that's the biggest thing. I don't want to be jumping around from chassis to chassis. I want people to kind of look at RPM and say, yeah, they're one of the top Tony Kart teams. There's an option that we can go run with them, and they usually have guys that are fast. So that's the biggest thing, is try to stay loyal and don't jump around too much. So
yeah, and as the years do go by and make those little changes, you can probably be a little bit better in tune with hows and whys and what that's happening. And then if this doesn't work, but it worked last year, now okay, maybe we can do this or whatever instead of being out to lunch. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we've had to change a couple things over the years: seat position, how much caster we're running in the kart, or things like this, depending on when the chassis changes.
Right.
So, yeah.
Best year for Tony Kart, you think? And worst year, what would you say?
You've been on them for now the last 8 or so.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty good, to be honest. But yeah, I remember 2011. Their stuff was really good. It was soft, so it was a little bit tricky. You maybe needed a new chassis more often, but
right.
That year was really good. It was like you had this one go-to setup that was like working everywhere.
Man,
nice. That's always a good feeling, right?
Yeah.
What was one of the harder years you think you had with the OTK brand?
I think when the 2019 came out, we struggled with it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was difficult for us.
I know that when I went to I started on the VLR, we were trying to make that thing work, and I went on 19. I went from a car that you had to drive it, like you'd feel like you had to drive the piss out of it, to the OTK, where like smooth, soft hands, like barely turn the wheel.
Work,
yeah, exactly. So, and I knew that even the other OTK drivers were going, "Wow, this thing is happy up front. Like it really wants to turn, and like twitchy almost." Mm-hmm. So I think maybe that kind of took people a little bit aback, if you will.
Well, for all of the other years, it felt like, and we were still fast, but the go-to on the Tony Kart was trying to find the front grip as the day progressed, right? As the tire degraded, you lose front grip, and you'd always have an understeer by the final. So it's like they finally fixed it. Like at one point, we made some special spindles that were 30 millimeter for the front, because we were struggling so much with the front grip. Those things that helped us a lot. And then the next year, it seemed they came out with the kart that had a lot more front grip. Problem solved.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
but right away, it was kind of ass backwards from what people were used to, and so it was kind of like, hold on a second, maybe there's a bit of a learning curve there.
Well, we were struggling with the rear grip for sure. We would run the same seat position as what we were running for the past 3, 4, 5 years, and
right.
long story short, we ended up having to move the seat back a little bit and change some things we were doing with the front end to get the carts to work.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, I know that. I mean, people talk about weird setups, and Matt Johnson will walk by my cart, and he's like, "What in the hell are you doing on this?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Hey, it works."
Yeah, yeah.
And we're both running the same chassis.
It's funny. I mean, because ECAN does their posts about after every big event, and it's like the OTK brand gets this many podiums throughout the weekend and stuff. It's so cool, and no matter who you are, you have to have respect for the OTK brand because of the success, how many sales they get, all that kinds of shit, right?
Yeah.
But man, on my side, I'm like, I would love to see different chassis up at the front. Just disparity is cool.
For sure.
And not just different colors of the same one.
Well, and I was
Right.
to say, at least it's not one team dominating. It's a number of teams that can go out and win on the stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be cool to see a different brand up there every once in a while.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're doing that good, people are going to gravitate towards you, and you just set the benchmark, right?
Yeah,
So,
and what you're like with Ryan, you're talking about being on the exact same chassis for a while. Like, hey, I want to be known as a premier, if not the best, one of the best OTK or Tony Kart teams.
Yeah.
And Derek had asked, tough year and a good year. How about for the team? What's maybe the best or shining achievement or whatever for the team overall so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think 2014 was pretty good, especially with the mini program. We had a really strong mini program back then. We ended up qualifying pole and Super Nats, and we got a couple Pro Tour wins with 2 different drivers.
Who are the drivers?
Miles Farhan and Trey Brown.
That's right.
oh,
So-
yeah.
It was,
Miles has gotten to be super tall too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Trey's been with you for a while, huh?
Yeah, he was with me, and then he ended up racing with the competitor team, and then now he's been actually working for my team this year full time. He's a really good asset to the team. He's really good working with the drivers and the coaching and all that, and he's actually decided to do a few races this year as well on the Pro Tour, and I've been really happy with the speed. It was quite satisfying to see, with the amount of time that he drives, which is like
Not a lot.
not at all.
Right.
For him to be out there leading at the highest level of competition at Pro Tour and in X30 was pretty good. It was disappointing on the outcome from that race, but
Yeah, you said the motor went, I think, huh?
well, that was Saturday, but on Sunday he ended up getting wrecked by one of the top drivers in North America. So
Oh,
the guy
man.
made a mistake, and Trey's weekend was over. Trey's day was over.
That's
So,
tough. That's
yeah.
tough. Well, it must have been all the time that you put in to Trey when he was a mini. That must be why he's so
No,
good now.
I mean, I worked with him in junior as well for
See, there it is, Ryan Perry.
he was fast, but we've always had a pretty good junior team, to be honest, and senior as well. But
Who are some of your drivers that you got right now?
so right now we have probably one of the stronger teams that we've ever had. Logan Toke, Parker DeLong, Carson Morgan, Cole Morgan. We had
That's a pretty good list already.
Yeah.
these are the guys. Yeah, we've got some other guys. Andrew Chapman, Timmy Carell. Those guys just started running nationally this year. They're actually making really good improvements. So, Lydia Small just raced her first Pro Tour race.
Okay.
Oh, neat.
So, I think. And then the senior category, other than Cole, we had Max Apolsky, but he just made a switch to cars, so he's kind of done racing for a little while. Jake Drew's been running with us a little bit this year. Trey, and it's been pretty good, I think.
That's a
Is
freaking
there a-
solid group.
Is there a class you prefer to work with, whether it be senior or junior or whatever?
No, I think I like working with all the classes.
Yeah.
It's each has their own challenge. Right now, mini seems to be the strongest challenge. I'm really wanting to close the gap on that category,
Mhm.
and I want all of our categories that we focus on the team to be, having guys up front. So it's just mini seems a bit tricky right now.
Yeah.
But junior, we're really strong. Senior, we seem pretty strong as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
And as a team, you guys are going for, again, USPKS, Pro Tour Championships, and of course, Super Nats and whatnot at the end. And you said you did all the winter stuff. Are you also doing the Rock Vegas race as well?
Yeah, I'll plan on going to that as well. So
Yeah.
that should be a pretty good sized event. We were there last year, and it it was really nice. So
Is there one event that, I mean, you said earlier, obviously Supernats is one that you really want, but as a team, is there one thing that you would want over anything else? Does the Supernats really reign supreme on the events, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
Supernats is biggest event in North America, one of the biggest events in the world. But and then you get with the COVID stuff, it's been more difficult. But you were getting a lot of the European entries, and
Right.
it's just quite difficult to win that race.
Yeah. So if you can win that one, it's definitely a feather in the cap.
Definitely.
As you guys, as RPM keeps rolling on and starts approaching 10 years, what are you seeing for the future of the team? Is expansion in the game? Or are you guys looking to try to do more at the regional or local level, or is this really going to be national specific?
No, I really want to push to get more people into the sport. We've actually just moved into our first shop, so about a little over a month ago. So I want to push to get more people in the sport and grow the local program. And that's the biggest thing. If we can try to match our local effort to our national effort, I think it would be really good for the sport, for the drivers, for us, for everyone. So that's the goal, just to try to grow on the local level, and then also maybe try to do a little bit on the sales side, some online sales maybe, now that we have a workshop, that we can maybe keep a little more inventory and things like this.
Nice.
So,
have you thought about getting back in the seat yourself? We talk about you being a tall guy, but
I thought about it. I drove a little bit when I was a little bit lighter in 2019, but that really hurt the ribs that day. So started thinking to myself, like, this doesn't seem like too much fun, just going out here injuring yourself just on a practice day. So, I mean, it's one of those things you got to drive all the time to kind of get used to it, right? For the ribs.
What's one of the things you think you'd want to hop back into, the new X30 upgrade stuff, or the 100cc?
Or maybe even shifters?
Yeah. I've driven a shifter a few times. I never actually raced one, but if I were to do something, it'd probably be like, it seems like the air-cooled stuff looks like a lot of fun right now.
It is.
Yeah.
I drove an X30 in 2019. That was with the old accessories, and that was good too. But I just think for my ribs and all that, you're on the harder
the
tire.
safety of your body,
it'd be a little bit easier for the 100.
Nice. It's definitely a lot of fun, man. It's fast enough. You get to scratch the itch that way.
Yeah.
Well, dude, if someone wants to get a hold of you, jump on a team, do a test day, or hook up on one of the national events, what's some contact info to throw out there?
Yeah, I mean, you can go on our website. It's ryanperrymotorsport.com. You can reach us at ryanperrymotorsport@gmail.com.
Nice.
So, you can email us, and we're on Instagram and Facebook as well. So,
and obviously, if you're at the track and you see the RPM guys, they're probably going to be at the sharp end. Like maybe this weekend at Pro Kart, you're going to have a team out here as well?
Yeah, we'll have some guys out here. We'll be doing our best. Just trying to help guys do as good as they can do, just keep them improving. And that's the biggest thing. If you help people that maybe aren't on the level, as long as they're getting better every day that they go to the track, then they're just going to become a better driver. Eventually, they'll be up front if they want it bad enough, I think.
Yeah, well, if they got a little bit of good coaching, good teamwork, and good tuning out of RPM, they probably got a better shot at it, too.
Dude, this is pretty cool. I mean, Mike and I say it almost every episode. I'm sure you've heard it, too. But, we're pretty lucky that we're in the SoCal area. Karting's as big as it is down here. And the neat part is, we've known you for years and never have had more than maybe a 10-minute conversation at a time.
For sure.
But to do this and get to know you, a little bit more is pretty cool, man. So hope you enjoyed
definitely.
it.
Yeah, it's been fun.
This has been a blast. Yeah, thanks so much for coming out, man.
Anytime.